We don't sell beer, we sell sex. You've got to give people what they want. My boss told me, he said, Steve, you're doing a fantastic job. And I said, well, Jeremy, I want your job. He said, well, I'm sorry, Steve, you've got no chance. And I started to think, well, what am I going to do? I managed to borrow a bit of money off my mum and bought myself a little van, a little white van.
What does it take to build a successful consumer brand? And how do you become one of the fastest growing companies in the UK? Today on All About Business, I'm joined by Steve Perez, founder of Global Brands Limited, the company behind drinks brands such as VK.
In 95, basically 96, my business went bust. It was probably one of the worst days of my life. I remember coming on the train from London, looking at myself in the bathroom and pointing at myself and saying, failed businessman. A lot of people were mixing Red Bull and vodka. What we should do, why don't we make our own? The year we started with VK, we turned over 2 million. The following year, we turned over 16 million. The following year, we turned over 30 million. The following year, we turned over 65 million. You've got to hang on to your business.
Equity is your last resort.
I never built a business to look for an exit. I built a business because I love what I do. Yeah, I run my own show.
I understand that when we finish talking here, we're in Chancery Lane in London. You're going to walk around the corner to the High Court, where you have a case that's being heard over the next couple of days, challenging our government about the removal of inheritance tax, business property relief. Could you explain what's going on? Why are you bringing this case? What's the issue here? Welcome to All About Business with me, James Reed, the podcast that covers everything about business, management, and leadership. Every episode, I sit down with different guests who've bootstrapped companies, masterminded investment models, or built a business empire. They're leaders in their field, and they're here to give you top insights and actionable advice so that you can apply their ideas to your own career or business venture. Well, today on All About Business, I'm really delighted to welcome Steve Perez to the studio. He's the founder and chairman of Global Brands, the independent drinks company he launched in 1997 after, I would say, identifying an opportunity in the market for a new kind of ready-to-drink beverage, leading to the creation of VK. What does VK stand for, Steve?
Well, it kind of stands for vodka kick.
Vodka kick.
Vodka kick. Yeah, it's vodka with a kick. It's got a little bit of caffeine in it, a little bit of alcohol.
All right.
And it kind of gives you a boost.
So for listeners, we've got a few examples on the table here in the studio. Bright coloured, quite enticing looking drinks that you first launched, I believe, in 1997. So Steve, just going back before that, you worked, I understand, in pubs and bars and restaurants. How did you come to start your own business, and how did you end up in this space?
Well, my father was in business. He was an entrepreneur. He had a pub and a restaurant, a very successful pub and restaurant called the Red Line and PKH Hotel, which actually I bought back about 7 years ago.
So where were these places, just so we can
in
picture
Derbyshire, in Chesterfield.
And that's where you're from?
And that's where I'm from. That's where all my business is based.
Right.
And my father sadly died when he was just 48. And he was in a partnership, and the partnership all kind of went wrong with him. We ended up with a family dispute. So we basically ended up with very, very little money. So I ended up going to work for the corporate, and I went to work for Tetley & Son, Joshua Tetley & Son, up in Leeds. And
famous brewers?
Yeah, famous brewers. And I was running what they call down their fun pubs.
Right.
And one day my boss said to me,
well, how did you distinguish a fun pub from another pub?
Well, bear in mind in those days, you go into a pub and you get a pint of bitter or a pint of mild. But
right.
we sold interesting. We sold lager for a start. We also sold premium bottled beers like Budweiser and Beck's and stuff like that.
So fun pubs had a bit more of a range.
Yeah, and loud music and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and a nightclub Yeah, my boss told me, he said, Steve, you're doing a fantastic job. You are a top manager. You're hitting all the targets. How do you see your future? And I said, well, Jeremy, one day I want to be like you. I want your job. Well, not your actual job, but I want to be an area manager. He said, well, I'm sorry, Steve. You've got no chance. Well, why is that? He said, well, you don't have a degree, do you? Said, no. Do I need a degree? Oh, absolutely. So you have a degree? So yes, I have a degree. Oh, what do you have a degree in? Greek mythology. So,
So this
I
is
thought,
somehow helpful to
I
be
thought
an
that might
area
be quite,
manager.
that must be useful to run. But so he says, I suggest you go and get yourself a degree and go to night
You
school.
must have been a bit perplexed at this.
Yes, I've got to go to night school, get a degree. He says, yeah, and then we can get you on our graduate training course.
Right.
I thought, I didn't really enjoy education that much anyway. So I thought, I don't think this, I'm not going to go anywhere. And I started to think, well, what am I going to do? I had a few ideas. I noticed we were using a lot of veg from prepared veg. So one idea was pre-preparing veg for hotels and restaurants. But then I'd noticed people were starting to drink a lot of premium bottled beers. And I thought, you know what? I reckon I could make a living. And I got no grand desire. All I wanted to do was stop working, for the corporate. You used to give me a rollicking because I was 10 minutes late. Because I've been working in a nightclub till 3 o'clock in the morning and I wasn't on time at 9:30 and that kind of thing. And
Right.
I didn't enjoy working for and I then thought, these imported beers are doing quite well. So I managed to borrow a bit of money off my mum and bought myself a little white van, and started to import small amounts of premium packaged beers. In those days, I had Budweiser. So Budweiser, nobody had heard of Budweiser. And I was saying, oh, this is Budweiser. It's from America. Oh, that's cool. And salt.
Right.
You put a lime in the bottle, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I remember this sort of emerging a long time ago. People started putting limes in bottles.
And
that was your sort of promotion, wasn't it?
I used to say, actually, we don't sell beer, we sell sex. And
Right, well, that would get people's attention. So what happened?
because you look a lot cooler, to the opposite
I see.
sex.
So if you're drinking one of these,
An expensive bottle of premium beer, whether it be Grolsch or Beck's or Budweiser, then you look like what rather than be stood there with a pint of bitter in your hand.
right?
Yeah. So a lot of the guys started to drink premium bottled beers.
Right.
And we always said like the dads drank bitter, their dads drank lager, the sons drank premium bottled beers, and their sons drink alcohol. VK, hopefully.
So you've got all generations catered for here. Then.
Yeah, well, so that business I built up from some out the back of a little van.
So this was going around Derbyshire, Yorkshire, that area?
Well, initially it was all around Derbyshire and Sheffield, which was the biggest city close to us. Yeah. And one day I got this big account. I kept, in those days, of course, we didn't have mobile phones, and you had to keep phoning. And one of the things was I kept phoning this guy. I remember it was Peter Moore, and the company was called Midsummer Leisure. And he was the area manager, and I presented my range of beers. I had to speak to him, and he was never available. But I kept calling his office, and one day I thought I'd call his office at 6 o'clock at night, and I called the office, and he answered the phone. I thought, Mr. Moore, I need to speak to you about my premium beers. He said, oh, yeah, I've been meaning to speak to you. Let me give you my order. And he gave me this huge order,
right,
which I could barely afford. And we started to supply this company, Midsummer Leisure, which became European Leisure, and we were supplying premium bottled beers. And this was quite a successful business. We turned over about 10 million for about 10 years. But then what happened? Change of government policy.
When are we talking about now?
This was so 95, 96. So the first business started in 1986.
Right.
By 95, 96, a lot of brewers had cottoned onto the imported beers and started to import the beers directly themselves.
Right.
Not only that, was at that time there was if you remember the whole cross-border shopping thing where guys were going over to the continent with white bands, not paying duty. There was another recession. And in 95, basically, 96, my business went bust.
Right.
And I was like, because we got some bad debts. And I was fairly highly geared. And,
so you obviously had to buy the beer and then sell it on, and you were the financing of
I was financing. I was doing stuff like, invoice factoring, invoice discounting, to raise funds. And we took a few bad debts. We didn't have a lot of cash, and the bank
that put you under.
Yeah, put me under, and and I thought,
how many people worked for the company then?
About 20 at that time. So
that must have been really tough.
It was probably one of the worst days of my life. I remember coming on the train from London, looking at myself in the bathroom, and pointing at myself and saying, failed businessman. Yeah, I just saw myself. Yeah, I looked pretty drawn. I just looked at myself and thought, "You're a failure." Because I put my heart and soul into that business, and you could have said it was no fault of my own, or you could have said it was my fault. I didn't really know it. Maybe it was my fault. Yeah, maybe I was incompetent, and that was a problem, of course, when I tried to set up a new business, because I recognised I'd still got a good contacts, and when I went to speak to the banks, at best they thought I was incompetent. At worst, they thought I was a crook.
Is your organisation prepared for what's coming next? At Reed Talent Solutions, we don't just manage contingent worker programs and fill roles through our RPO solutions. We future-proof your workforce, from scaling operations to upskilling teams and navigating digital transformation. We are your strategic partner in building resilient, future-ready talent ecosystems. Visit reedtalentsolutions.com today to discover how we can help your business grow.
And
this is when you came up with your next idea.
Yeah, my next idea.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, to start with, it started off. I started trading because I recognised grey market stuff. When you're buying like products from abroad, it's legal. Yeah. So despite the fact that we weren't the importer for Budweiser, I could buy it in Holland at a cheaper price and sell it on the market.
Well, that was all when we were in the EU, I guess. You could bring things in quite happily.
Yeah. And then we started to sell. And what happened at that time with Alka-Pops became very, very popular. And then
we're talking mid-90s.
Mid-90s, yeah. So 96, 97, 98 became very popular. And then the government got involved and brought in quite a bit of legislation to stop them, the way they advertise these things. And a lot of the brewers and big companies got out of Alka-Pops, as they were called. There was quite a lot of stock on the market, cheap stock, which I bought the stock, and I could sell it to a lot of my customers, but from the previous business, because I'd built up. It's very important. You build up, despite the fact my first business had gone bust. I'd built up some great customers who became good friends, and they were happy to support me in my new venture, and they were buying these Alka-Pops, sometimes short dated, and the only rule I had then was, please pay me really quickly, because
So hang on, you've said a lot here that I just want to unpack a little bit. So how long after you were sort of having that moment on the train when you were being so tough on yourself, saying I'm a failed businessman, to starting again? What was the sort of intervening gap? Are we talking weeks, days?
Probably a few. Well, to start with, I thought I'm also a farmer. I got a small holding, and I just by the skin of my teeth managed to hang on to the farm, basically because I had so much money on it, the bank weren't interested.
That's one way of surviving a financial crisis, I'm told. But I got my farm and I got some veg, I got some chickens. I thought, well, you know what? I can live on the farm. I can grow my own vegetables, and I got my and actually, I could live quite frugally, and because I was sort of thinking about the business. This building some sort of business. But then I thought, I'm never going to have a big business again. Little business would suit me. And I thought maybe I could do a little bit of trading or what have you. But I had no money, so I got myself a part-time job as a waiter in a restaurant. So at weekends I was working as a waiter because I still had bills to pay. So I grew my own food. And good thing was with being a waiter, you got staff dinner. And tips sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, and tips. And my uncle had a market stall in Derby, so I helped him sell leather goods on the market stall. So it was all ways of just trying to make some money, but I built this business up, sort of trading not of my own brands, but then it became more difficult to buy these short dated and what I mean by short dated, like almost expired sell by dates. And it got more difficult to buy stock. So, and then where all these great ideas are born was in the pub. I was talking to one of my guys. They said, "What we should do? Why do we make our own?" yeah, that's a good idea. And we noticed Red Bull was selling really well at that time. And vodka was selling well. A lot of people were mixing Red Bull and vodka. Yeah, that was the drink to have.
Keep you going late at night.
Yeah, you have that all night. So I said, why don't we do a Red Bull vodka? And I noticed from a previous business, the brands that sold well have got sort of one or two syllables like Beck's, Bud, Sol. And I thought, I know what I'll do. Let's think of catchy names. So let's have two initials. So VB. So I thought VB, Vodka Bull. So that didn't work because it was already VB bitter. So I went VB, VC, that's Victoria Cross. VD, obviously couldn't call it that.
No, that
I got VE, that had connotations with drugs. And I got to VK. I said, VK, that looks nice. And
so literally you went through V and none of the following letters.
K looks nice. V and K, it's all linear. And Mark James, who was my only employee at that time, said to me, what's it called VK? I said, vodka with a kick, vodka kick. So it became Vodka Kick. And ultimately, we actually had to drop the name Kick because it was decided by the powers that be that it was sort of promoting irresponsible drinking. So now it's just called VK.
Yes.
And everybody knows what it is.
Yes.
And
so what was your first VK flavour?
So it was VK Blue, but actually...
Which we have on the table, VK Blue.
But at that time, it wasn't actually blue.
Oh, wasn't it?
It was in the blue... Well, it was in the blue bottle. It was called VK Energy.
Right.
And I said we weren't allowed to call it. We found a couple of years later, the powers that be ruled we couldn't call it VK Energy because that could promote irresponsible drinking. So
right.
But everybody used to call, because it was wrapped in a blue sleeve, everybody called it VK Blue.
Right.
So let's just call it VK Blue. So for many years it was sleeved, but it was a sort of Red Bull flake coloured liquid. And so it was only some more recently for environmental reasons really we took the sleeving off, the plastic sleeving off, and obviously we had to add some sort of coloured.
Was the sleeving on so people could drink it in various locations? Was that why it was? It was sort of covered up.
It just looks cool.
It just
really.
looks cool.
Yeah, it looks really good.
So you really sort of did a lot of thought around the way it looked and sounded.
Yeah.
That was your sort of focus.
I think the thing is with business, you could say 10 years and probably 10 years prior to that in working in hospitality, I realised you've got to give people what they want, and people people want to hold a bottle in their hand that's sexy, and like the beers and Alka-Pops were the new.
So you wanted a good looking bottle.
Yeah, I wanted something, and it looked great. In fact, it was the same colour as my car. I managed to afford a BMW at that time because the business grew fairly quickly, really.
Was that bright blue?
And that was bright blue. I said, let's make it the same colour as my BMW.
Right. So blue is the colour.
Yeah, it was like a silver blue.
Right. Okay. So then you obviously expanded the range.
Well, to start with, we just started with blue, and then it was a watermelon. But what happened was, because I got the contacts from my previous business, we got the blue, we had an orange and a watermelon, and an iron brew version. They were the first 4 flavours. Because actually, you needed a range.
But hang on, Iron Brew's another brand.
No, well, that's spelled Iron Brew. That's IRN. But Iron Brew actually isn't a brand.
What is Iron Brew then?
Iron Brew is a tutti fruity flavour, actually.
It's actually a flavour.
Yeah, it's a flavour. Yeah,
I never knew that. So you could use that phrase.
Yeah, we could use that phrase. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And at that time, that was quite popular. And I went to my my customers I had from imported beers. And I said, look, I've got this new brand. The biggest brand at that time was Bacardi Breezer. And I said, look, you could kick out Bacardi Breezer and put in VK. And the benefit of VK over Bacardi Breezer is, first of all, it's vodka. It's not rum. People prefer vodka to rum. Our bottle's a little bit smaller. And instead of being 5.4 ABV, the 4% ABV. So less strong. People will drink more. And actually, people will be less ill. You get less problems in your nightclubs. And you save money. It's kind of a win-win.
Right.
As soon as we started to produce it and supply it, the business, we were turning over when I first started, we turned over about 200,000. The year we started with VK, we turned over 2 million. The following year, we turned over 16 million.
16.
Yeah.
So grow eightfold.
Yeah. The following year, we turned over 30 million. The following year, we turned over 65 million.
This is a huge growth sort of trajectory. That must have put quite a lot of pressure on the business, didn't it?
It was, but you know what?
How did you do that? Yeah.
It was the best fun I've had in my life. It was.
Sounds it.
Talk about having fun in business.
So you must have had to grow a team pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was fun and fear. It was and having fun. I'm a rally driver, and people say, "Well, it's dangerous, isn't it?" And I suppose it was dangerous. My house.
You like a bit of adrenaline buzz.
Yeah. What was left? Everything was on the line, and people say, "Well, how do you fund it?" And the difficulty with drinks, of course, you have to pay. Well, we had to pay the duty up front. So as soon as we produce, we have to pay the excise duty up front, and we have to pay for the product because it was very difficult getting.
So you weren't making it; you were getting other people to make it, were you?
And that's what we still do today. Everything. We're a mill without looms. So everything is, our skill set is in marketing, in producing amazing liquids, but the only thing we don't do is put the liquid in the bottle.
So you're coming up with the recipes and the marketing.
We supply the labels, we supply the
branding,
crowns and everything. And we supply that to the filler, and the filler fills it. Lots of the big brands do the same thing, including me. We'd go down the same line as Bacardi Breezer, for example, our arch rival.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to have a factory.
But you had to be able to finance that.
Yeah.
And so that was a challenge, growing that far. How did you do that?
And that is the biggest.
Because you've also got these banks who think you're either
incompetent
or a crook, as you put it.
Yeah. So
how did you persuade them to finance?
I couldn't borrow any money from the banks. Not only that, they were awful. Because in those days, you wrote checks. And I remember one day, the bank saying, "Oh, you wrote overdrawn." I said, "Well, I'm not overdrawn. I've got all these checks." He said, "Yeah, but you've got uncleared funds. That means you're overdrawn. So I'm going to have to bounce over your checks." I said, "Please don't do that. If you bounce my checks, my suppliers will lose confidence in me, and I'll be out of business again." He says, "No, look, I need $5,000 in your account by today." Meanwhile, actually, I was negotiating.
Well, you had checks from other people. They would take days to sort of administer or process.
For those people that don't know what checks are, there's a piece of paper we used to have to write.
Yeah, but they took like 2 or 3 days to take, which was while they were making money out of your money, I guess.
Yeah.
So they were going to put you out of business.
They're going to put me out of business. So
that's shocking.
So I managed to sell my only car. I got a Land Rover, and my farm Land Rover. I sold my Land Rover for cash. Got $5,000 cash. Put it into the bank, and I said, "There's the cash, Chris Rigby was his name. Maybe I can't say his name. Midland Bank in Chesterfield.
Just so everyone knows.
There's the cash, and close the effing account." He said, "What do you mean?" So, "No, I've opened an account with Royal Bank of Scotland." So close the account, cleared the checks.
They lost you as a customer.
Yeah, got the bus back to my warehouse, but.
So literally, you sold your car. To stay in business.
Just to get those checks cleared.
Right.
And then it was bought for cash. So then what? The business was growing so quickly, but I got some really, really good suppliers, and many of which, in fact, Thomas Hardy was our bottler. They were our biggest supplier. And they still 25 years still bottle for us today.
They're still a supplier.
Yeah, they're still suppliers.
So that relationship's critical.
And they're probably our biggest supplier. And I went to Peter Ward, because it was another family business, Chris's father. I said, "Look, I haven't got the cash yet to pay you terms, but please, if you could, I know I've only got a $5,000 credit limit, but my business is going really well. Please come to my office, see what we're doing. If you want to see my bank statements, if you want to see my cash book, anything you want to do, you can see. I'll fax them down to you."
Because you knew the money was going to come in.
Yeah,
from
we've got great customers. We're making fantastic margins. We're making huge amount of profit, but we weren't making any cash.
Yeah.
So I went to all my suppliers, my glass suppliers, and said, And to my surprise, they all said, well, nobody's ever said this to us before.
Right.
And you know what? In 25 years in business since, nobody's ever come to me and said, yeah, we certainly put people on stop and give them credit limits, but nobody's come and said, I'll show you my books, come and have a look, send your FD along. And
so that's good advice to people who are in this situation of growing businesses and the cash is tight. You know, if you've got a growth story to show.
Yeah, and you know what gets me these days? And maybe it wasn't around when I first started. Business these days, everybody talks about seed enterprise, SEIS, where you give a chunk of your business away to VCTs, and I would say you've got to hang on to your business, and
so find other ways of financing.
Find other ways. That should be the last resort.
Well, equity is your last resort.
Yeah, equity is your last resort. You know, go to the banks at that time. You know, you had to go to the banks, and eventually, you come up with a business plan, and the banks lend us money. There's invoice factoring, invoice discount. There are other forms of finance, but I see lots of these businesses around, and some people send me business plans, and they show me the business plan. First of all, the founder's on $150,000 a year. And he gives away a lot of his equity. He loses millions and millions and millions. I look at lots of our competitors. I see lose millions a year, and then they shout out in the press how delighted they are that they've narrowed their losses from 3 million to 2 million, and they're always looking for an exit. And I never built a business to look for an exit. I built a business because I love what I do. I love the people. I love my customers, and it's great fun enjoying your own business. And over the years, many times I've had businesses, VCT or venture capitalists come along and say, "Oh, would you like to take 10 million out of your business? You'd like to take 20 million? Yeah, we'll take a minority stake. You'll still be running your business." And I've always resisted it. I run my own show. I don't want somebody.
But why have you resisted it? Because you think they're going to take it over, or because they'll make you sell it, or what's the?
Because it means I can make mistakes.
You can make mistakes when you're your own.
Yeah, I make mistakes all the time. We do things. Do things. We try things. We try new brands, and sometimes they're successful, and sometimes they fail. And I don't have to look over my shoulder or get permission. And we have to do things very, very quickly. The drinks business is almost like the fashion business. Things change very, very quickly. Fashions change, flavors change. For example, peaches are in flavor right now. So, yuzu is a big flavor right now. So we've
you need to keep abreast of these.
And you need to move quick. And sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes you're too early to market. We've made that mistake a few times. We've brought brands to market, and we think they're going to be really successful, and they failed.
Yes. So having the sort of independence to be able to try things and to weather failure without a venture capitalist coming down on you like a ton of bricks, and you miss some plan is really important. I can see. How have you developed your product range? Because I know you've gone beyond VK and you do other things now as global brands.
Yeah. So our main market was, to start with, was mainly pubs, clubs, and busy town centre bars. So the first brand we came along was called Corkies, which is a flavoured shot, and that was very, very successful. And then we have another brand called Kick, which is a non-alcoholic version of vodka Kick, and it's another energy drink. And about 5 years ago, I bought Hooch. Now Hooch at one time was our arch rival, and it went off the market. It was bought by originally owned by Bass.
So Hooch was Alka-Pops.
It was another Alka-Pop.
That's what I recall. Yeah.
It was. Many people say it was the founding father of Alka-Pops.
The original.
Yeah, it was the original.
Okay. Yeah.
And Coors,
I remember it. Yeah.
Coors had it, and I think Bass had it, and then Coors bought Bass Brewers. I think the Americans just didn't like Alka-Pops. Thought they were probably too girly or something, and eventually decided they were going to take take it off the market, and it went off the market.
Right.
And I met up with Bass or with Kurz as it was then. I said, look, you've got this brand Hooch, and you're not doing anything with it. Would you let me license it? And so we came up with a very, very simple licensing agreement, and for about 10 years we were very successful with Hooch, and Keith Lemon launched it for us. With Keith Lemon, Lemon Hooch, and all that, and then to my surprise, so 3 years ago, Hooch, the owners of Hooch, which was Kurz, offered to sell it to me, and I was absolutely delighted. It was the first acquisition I've made, because they'd always said that they wouldn't sell it. It was too big a brand for them, and I bought it, and we brought it into our stable. So we've really sort of cornered the let's say the alcohol. Well, we don't like to call it alcopops. We call it RTDs, ready to drink. And
why don't you like to call it alcopops?
Well, it has connotations with unsociable drinking, irresponsible drinking. But actually, a lot of these products are actually not that strong.
So you call it ready to drink.
You're ready to
so
drink.
They're like little cocktails.
Yeah, we supply a range of cocktails called All Shook Up. Now that's in all the major retailers, or a lot of the major retailers.
All Shook Up.
All Shook Up. For example, you
shaken, not stirred.
Yeah, you'll see it in Tesco's.
Right.
And also we supply a lot of own label products for some of the discounters, such as Aldi and Lidl, and also some of the other major supermarkets. Because what we're absolutely brilliant at is coming up with a fantastic flavour. I really believe our guys,
So do you have a sort of taster team? It's a little laboratory where people are trying these things.
Yeah, we have
nice job for people.
Yeah, we have our own chefs and who come up with flavours, and they are absolutely brilliant at coming up with great flavours and also innovative flavours. So like I said, we've just launched a yuzu flavour of Franklin and Sons, which I can tell you about.
So tell me about Franklin and Sons. Yeah, that's another business line for you.
Yeah.
So what's Franklin and Sons?
So I'd obviously seen the success of Fever Tree, or the growing success of Fever Tree about 10 years ago.
So there was Schweppes.
Yeah, first of all there's Schweppes.
And then there's Fever Tree.
Yeah, there's Fever Tree.
These are tonics, typically. Yeah. And now you've got Franklin and Sons.
Yeah, and I thought I'd seen Fever Tree, but I just didn't want to invent yet another Me Too copycat of Fever Tree. But I saw there was a market for another premium tonic, and I looked around. And I thought, what a lot of these brands are lacking are heritage. Because the great thing about tonics, tonics were invented, in India. It was a tonic, which quinine was.
It's meant to help you avoid malaria.
To avoid malaria, so there's a lot of history. And I looked around, and I scoured the internet, and I found there was a tonic, a soft drinks company called Franklin and Sons, which were originally founded in 1886.
Right.
And the brand had died, gone off the market, and the trademarks had lapsed. And I contacted the original family, well, not the original founder, but one of the family members. And asked if they were interested in being involved. Unfortunately, they weren't interested in being involved in the business. I explained I wanted to bring the brand back to life, which they were very happy I did so. And we were true as possible to the brand. So we went back and we tried to find the old recipes and the bottle was very similar in terms of logo to how it was back in the day. And
so this is interesting. So you were very interested in recreating the narrative around an old brand that made a premium product and recreating, because obviously with VK you did the opposite. You started afresh, something new. here you're going, right, this is a different strategy marketing-wise.
Yeah. And
so what made you change?
I'll tell you what
Why didn't you just do a new tonic?
I tell you what gave me the idea. I was in the Brewers Hall, I think it is. You know, the Brewers Vintners, the Brewers livery, Brewers Vintners Hall, the Brewers Hall, and I was going down the stairs and I saw these wonderful names. I think like Watneys or Edmund Watney or the Charringtons, and all these old brewers, all people.
Yes.
Yeah. They're I know there's a few around still today.
People's names.
The people, Charringtons. They're all the original founders there. So isn't that wonderful? But there's very few brands like that. So I wanted somebody's name. Yeah, I don't think a tonic called Perez would have worked anyway. By the way,
might have done. That sounds quite good to me.
Not very British.
No, but tonic isn't, as you just said.
And so I wanted to found there was actually another brand which I saw called Clayton's, which was actually a soft drinks company in Chesterfield, but they'd already got trademarks in Australia and various other. So but I found Franklin's, and then we developed. And what I wanted to develop something special really for the on-premise, because the problem is what happens with brands is develop these very premium brands, and I don't necessarily want to decry my competitors, such as Fever Tree, because I understand the commercial pressures they're under. You create a really successful brand, as they did with Fever Tree, and once again, and they went into all the premium venues and hotels, but gradually they went out in the supermarkets, and I think once they start to get in the supermarket, they become less special. And also kind of devalued, it's like say champagne. Like lots of sommeliers look rather sniffy if you order a bottle of Moët Chandon, because you can buy it in every supermarket, and it's probably better. Right. There are better champagnes than the Moët Chandon, and I also believe that if you're going out for dinner or cocktail, you want an experience, and you want to experience something you can't experience at home.
I see. So this is for
and one of the things we've done with Franklin's, we've created a lot of really unusual and different flavours. Yeah, my favourite being a rosemary black olive flavour, which is rosemary black olive flavoured tonic, which is absolutely amazing. Right. And now
you can only get that when you go out. You can't.
You can't buy it in the supermarkets. Right. You can buy it online, but you can buy it. And it's something for the bartenders to talk about, because it should be going out should be an experience. It's not like going anyone can sit at home and have a gin and tonic or a meal, and also as far as the outlets are concerned, if you can buy that tonic for 50p in a supermarket, well, it looks like you're being ripped off if you're charging £3.50 for it.
It does.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. It happens. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. So I can see the strategy, and that makes sense. Let's fast forward a bit here, Steve. So you now have, I believe, a family business, because I think other family members are involved in global brands.
Yeah.
Tell me how it looks today.
Yeah. Well, I've sort of. Can I just go back a little bit?
You can do what you like.
Right, yeah, because I'm also a hotelier as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I needed to move. Once my business was expanding, I needed to move offices. So I bought a piece of land. I was making a lot of money then. It was a business.
How long ago are we talking about now?
So this would have been in 2000 and another recession, 2008, 2009, and I decided, I was making so much money, I needed to buy some land and build something. So I decided to build some offices. So I bought a piece of land in Chesterfield, which was quite a big piece of land, but it was too big just for my offices. And again, where all the great ideas are born, in the pub. I was talking to my brother. He said, I don't know what else to do with this piece of land. It's a great site. And he said, well, why do you build a hotel? I thought, that's a great idea. Let's build a hotel. And I started off with
So you just had an idea in a pub to build a hotel?
Yeah.
And you went and built one?
And I built a hotel.
I love this. This is good. How many bedrooms does this
hotel
have?
It started off as a little 3-star hotel.
How many rooms?
with about 60 rooms.
60? That's not that small. Yeah.
Well, no, but at one stage it ended up looking like something in Dubai,
Right.
and it kind of completely went off budget. But it ended up being 100 bedrooms.
So what's it called?
It's called the Casa Hotel.
Casa Hotel in
my
Chesterfield.
house. Yeah. Right, and it's a 6-story building. It's a beautiful, very modern building. Initially, the planners didn't want it because he said it would look too modern, and I said, look, it's a £20 million development. If you don't want it, I'll move somewhere else.
What's the rival town to Chesterfield? You could have threatened them with.
Well, Sheffield's
Take it to Sheffield.
Yeah. But it's great because what it means is our offices are there on the 5th floor. My staff can stay there. We have members of staff not only all over the country but all over the world, and they can come. Our customers can come. We can build the drinks, and I can indulge in my other passion, which is food and.
So it's probably got quite a lively bar, has it?
It's got a great it's
with all
great
your
bar.
products, and a good restaurant. I hope. I'm looking forward to visiting one day. So is it busy? Is it?
Yeah.
Happy with it?
But
obviously this was a different business line.
Yeah, but as I was building, because the bank said, "Are you crazy? What do you know about hotels?" Well, I know a lot about hotels. My father was in the restaurant business, and I worked in hotels. But actually, it was a lot more difficult than I imagined. And just while we were building the hotel, we had another recession, and it put a lot of pressure on the business. That kind of 2009, 2010, and many times I regretted building it. But actually, subsequently, it's been very, very popular. It's the only 4-star hotel in Chesterfield.
Right.
But then I decided, I kind of decided I liked hotels and I enjoyed the whole. And as I said, my father had the Red Lion pub and restaurant, which became the Peak Edge Hotel. And about 7 years ago, I heard he was going to, just before COVID, I'd heard it was on the market and was for sale. So I bought it.
This is also in Chesterfield.
Also just outside Chesterfield, yeah. And it's about 2 miles from my house. And I'm also a farm. I've got a 500-acre farm. So my idea has always been, a bit like Jeremy Clarkson, was to build this farm to fork. So I have the animals,
right? And
the animals go to feed the hotels. The hotels serve my drinks.
Yeah.
So
you're vertically integrated.
Exactly.
As business
really old-fashioned, that vertical integration.
Old-fashioned, but you seem to think it works. Huh?
Yeah, it does. And there's so many synergies. For example, one of the cocktail barman ended up coming over and now works in the drinks business, and so there are lots of synergies there.
And you have your family involved, I understand. So
Yeah, so my son's joined the business, Seb. He's a part-time professional racing driver as well.
Right.
So when he's not racing all over the world, he races old cars. He's a very, very successful driver. He won the British Rally Championship and
good for him.
And so what he's able to do is able to look after some of he's helping looking after some of the international markets. We've got huge potential right now in the US with Franklin & Sons. I see that as being a great growth area, and also my nephew's working in the business.
Fantastic. So, Steve, I understand that when we finish talking here, we're in Chancery Lane in London. You're going to walk round the corner to the High Court, where you have a case that's being heard over the next couple of days, challenging our government about the introduction of, removal of inheritance tax, business property relief.
Yeah.
So could you explain what's going on? Why is this? Why are you bringing this case? What's the issue here? And what do you hope to achieve?
Yeah, for 50 years, brought in by a Labour government, family businesses have been allowed to pass on to the next generation, and there's millions of family businesses in the UK. We're the biggest employer of people in this country. The government, in the first 2 months, changed the business property whereby all businesses now will have to pay on the death of the founder or owner is 20% on the value of their business. Now, people think, well, you've got a big business, you can afford 20%, but actually what it is, so for example, if you valued any business, let's think of a number. If you valued a business at 50 million, you would have to find 10 million to pay the government. Now, finding 10 million would mean you'd have to pay yourself approximately 20 million pounds in dividends to pay the tax. Now, most businesses...
Because that's already taxed.
That's already taxed, yes.
So, they're basically taking tax twice if you do that.
And it's like the farms. Most businesses, like farms, don't have that kind of money available. We don't have liquid cash. What it's meant for me, I mean, I'd got one of my hotels. I'd planned building another 27 bedrooms. I planned putting a spa in. I'd got a £10 million canning line going in. I've had to scrap all that for the time being.
Because you're concerned about this.
Yeah, because what it would do, it would create a huge issue, for my family going forward. The bigger my business is, the bigger problem I'm going to have. And what it will mean is
so what you're saying, so if I understand you, is you don't really want to grow your business much bigger because it becomes a bigger problem for your descendants?
Oh, yeah, the brakes are on. The
brakes are on. So you're literally saying you've stopped making these investments.
Yeah.
So if this is a pattern that's being recreated across the country, that's going to undermine any growth plans for the economy, isn't it? I mean,
but it's not just my descendants. People say, well, I'm just looking after my family. My family are my business and my employees, and I'm really really concerned about my employees' futures going forward, because should I die and my business gets sold, more than likely it will be sold to a much bigger business. They'll move out of Chesterfield. The employees would be made redundant.
Okay, well, we'll follow that with... I said clogs to clogs in 3 generations as a phrase. I was once told.
Yeah, Clovis said
you said
coolie
a different
to
one.
Taipan to back to coolie again. It's the
Coolie
Chinese
to
version.
Taipan to coolie again. That's the Chinese version.
Hopefully, me and my son, my family will take it to the next day. So it'll be a huge drinks business, multinational drinks.
So he has some pressure to become a Taipan, I can see.
Hopefully he's got the ambition to do so.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Steve. Thanks for coming in. And we won't drink all these at once. Cheers.